Zoidstar name. South house or tribe inside. When mutants tremble, blue shields fail. You make it hot beyond the pale. Through the wasteland of iron and bone, South wonders never home. Quest for power, cause of pain, hunts his destiny in electric rain. No loyalty, no vows to hold. Tower keeps two realms of cold. Begging spirit wild and hard. Zoidstar trembles at its core. Engines roaring through cosmic dust. Zoids eyes burn with mistrust. Guardians for dark shadows rise. Lupine branches in disguise. In the circuits of the void, legends of the doom deployed. Tales of Zoids' ruthless deeds, echoes where the twilight meets. Zoidstar name. South house or tribe inside. When mutants tremble, blue shields fail. You make it hot beyond the pale. Through the wasteland of iron and bone, South wonders never home. Quest for power, cause of pain, hunts his destiny in electric rain. No loyalty, no vows to hold. Tower keeps two realms of cold. Begging spirit wild and hard. Zoidstar trembles at its core. Engines roaring through cosmic dust. Zoids eyes burn with mistrust. Guardians for dark shadows rise. Lupine branches in disguise. In the circuits of the void, legends of the doom deployed. In the neon haze of Zoidstar night, Zoids howls go tried inside. When mutants tremble, blue shields fail. Renegade heart beyond the pale. Through the wastelands, iron and bone, Zoids wanders never home. Quest for power, claws of pain, hunts his destiny, electric rain. No loyalty, no bounds to hold. Zoids tears through realms of cold. Renegade spirit, wild and raw. Zoidstar trembles at his core. Engines roaring through cosmic dust. Zoids eyes burn with mistrust. Guardians fall, dark shadows rise. Lupine vengeance in disguise. In the circuits of the void, legends of the doom deployed. Tales of sound roll through this beat, echoes where the twilight meets. Planets quake under his reign. Chaos howls in every realms of cold. Renegade spirit, wild and raw. Zoidstar trembles at his core. No loyalty, no bounds to hold. Sound of tears surrounds the cold. Renegade spirit, wild and raw. Zoidstar trembles at his core. Engines roaring through cosmic dust. Tower sides burn with mistrust. Guardians fall